men entertained or outraged the world as he did. As a playwright, he created many extraordinary characters. But the most remarkable role was the one he invented for himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, I suppose you know that this is a fake. You all imagine that this is perfectly natural, that I'm coming just to get into the airplane. But it's all a put-up job. And the whole point of this is that you should see the animal for a moment. Well, you have seen him. I've nothing whatever to say to you, except that I'm sure you're very glad to see me, and I'm extremely sorry that I can't see you. Good morning.
His name is George Bernard Shaw, and this is his biography. I'm Mike Wallace. This is Biography. Our story, George Bernard Shaw. Shaw was the most celebrated, and to many the greatest playwright of his time. But he was too extravagant a personality to be satisfied with this solitary distinction. I am, he said matter-of-factly, a philosopher, novelist, sociologist, statesman, dramatist, and theologian. And, he added, an Irishman, a vegetarian, a fanatic, and a fluent liar. George Bernard Shaw once confessed, "I love to leave fire and desolation in my path, to create the impression that I am a terrible fellow."
I've been here before. I told you what to do and you haven't done it. And you're up to your neck in trouble, incontinent.
Shaw bristled with hostility, but he camouflaged it with laughter. In order to gain a hearing, he said, it was necessary for me to become a lunatic, a jester. It was a role that he played for almost an entire century, beginning in Dublin, Ireland, where he was born in 1856. Shaw's father, George Carr Shaw, is a total failure. By day, he loses money in business ventures. At night, he is an amiable drunkard. Shaw's mother, Bessie, neglects the family and spends most of her time singing in amateur choruses. A strange bohemian by the name of Vandeleur Lee is Mrs. Shaw's singing teacher, and he even lives with the Shaw family. Another familiar figure in the Shaw household is Uncle William, an eccentric clergyman who winds up in an asylum after insisting that he is the Holy Ghost. But Uncle Walter is Shaw's favorite. He frequently storms through the Shaw home, reciting what young George calls unprintable limericks. Raised in this eccentric household, Shaw grows up a strange young man, inwardly shy, outwardly rebellious. Though exceptionally bright, he quits school and tries his hand at a couple of minor jobs. But he calls honest work a sin against my nature. Besides, Shaw has something else on his mind, the far-off city of London. London is a mecca for the wealthy and the cultured. It is a city of opportunity for ambitious young men. At the age of 20, Shaw arrives in London to make his fortune, he says, as a man of genius. In staid Victorian London, the young genius avoids gainful employment and associates with the city's bohemian set. The bohemians share Bernard Shaw's youthful scorn of home and family, flag and country, morals and conventions. Even among these bohemians, Shaw learns how to attract attention. He startles his friends by declaring, "If God really exists, let him prove it by striking dead everyone in this room." Shaw quickly becomes a master at capturing the spotlight by the simple device of shocking people. He has always had a way with words. Now Shaw tries his hand at writing novels. All of them are bad. Within the next 9 years, Shaw will earn $30 as a writer. Shaw's mother rescues him when he is almost penniless. She has come to London to teach singing and to dabble in Ouija boards and communing with the dead. Now she gives him bed and board, helps to support him for the next 20 years. Says Shaw, "I didn't throw myself into the struggle for life. I threw my mother into it." He now develops a new interest, politics. And though he has trouble with his own financial problems, Shaw decides that socialism is the answer to the economic ills of the rest of the world. Overnight, he becomes famous for his skill as a fiery pamphleteer and debater. At times, the work of Shaw and his fellow radicals, who are called the Fabians, leads to street demonstrations and violence. Shaw, however, says, "I am a thinker, not a fighter. When the shooting begins, I shall get under the bed and not emerge until we come to constructive business." At 29, the intellectual firebrand accepts a job as a music and drama critic. Soon, all of London is talking about the young man who dares to attack, even to ridicule, the greatest writers and composers of his day. Writes Shaw, "There is nothing that soothes me more, after long piano recitals, than to sit and have my teeth drilled by a finely skilled dentist." Beginning to cut a dashing figure in London, Shaw declares that women find him irresistible. The great English actress Ellen Terry, however, fires Shaw's imagination. Years before they meet personally, he sends her passionate letters. Writes Shaw, "Oh, the happiness, the peace of loving my great treasure, Ellen." But when they do meet, Shaw insists that their relationship remain purely platonic. Then in 1898, an Irish millionairess, Charlotte Payne Townsend, becomes Shaw's intellectual companion and secretary. He calls her the suffragette, Miss Dignity. When Shaw suffers a breakdown from overwork, Miss Dignity eagerly volunteers to be his private nurse and devote herself to him. Shaw remains calm, deciding that he and Miss Townsend have become indispensable to one another. He commands her first to buy a ring and a marriage license. Mrs. George Bernard Shaw and her husband begin their marriage with a unique understanding that they will forsake all romance, all emotion, and be just friends. On their honeymoon, the 42-year-old Shaw falls down a flight of stairs and breaks a few bones. He spends most of his time planning a book about Richard Wagner. Shaw has also begun to write plays that crackle with his irreverent ideas. Now, as a writer, he has found himself. In his first major work, Caesar and Cleopatra, Shaw dares to poke fun at the vanity, the foibles of illustrious figures in history. Man and Superman ridicules conventional morality and shows that in the battle of the sexes, woman is the hunter, man the hunted. The Doctor's Dilemma deals with a profession which, says Shaw, writes absurd prescriptions, promotes unnecessary surgery, and ruthlessly exploits human folly and fear. Pygmalion is a social satire, the story of a Cockney flower girl who is accepted by society as a gracious lady simply because she is made to look like one. Saint Joan is Shaw's masterpiece, his eloquent tribute to the individual, to the independent mind in conflict with religion and society. Boasts George Bernard Shaw, I am a specialist in immoral and heretical plays. Shaw confesses that he has a formula for playwriting. The secret of success, he says, is to offend the greatest number of people. And it is this success, this notoriety, that Shaw craves above all. Says one critic, with one eye always cocked on public opinion, Shaw is not a true rebel against the mob, he is a slave to it. Shaw becomes an international figure, made rich by an intrigued public, attacked by censors and clergymen, idolized by rebellious intellectuals. Then, near the height of his fame, Shaw falls in love, in his peculiar way, with another great actress, whom he calls his glorious white marble lady. A star in many of his plays, Stella Patrick Campbell, however, is somewhat bewildered by Shaw's conception of romance. I kiss your hand, writes Shaw, and praise creation for you. And now I shall go to bed and sign myself, O loveliest, doveliest, babiest, your gabbiest, GBS. He even goes so far as to take her photograph in the privacy of her home, but he will go no further. The aging playwright frankly tells Stella, my scalp, the scalp of a Superman, shall not decorate your wigwam. As Shaw nears his 70s, his powers as an artist begin to fade. But Shaw himself in the 1920s emerges as an astonishing figure, a world traveler, social critic, and a cultural institution, part genius, part ham.
Oh, how do you do? Just wait one moment until I come down. Well, here you are, I suppose in a stuffy theater somewhere, munching chocolates and larking with one another. Now, the reason I'm here is that I was born on the 26th of July, 1856. And consequently, you would say that I am 76 years of age today. Now, I think I have said about as much as a man of 76 ought to be allowed to say on his birthday, and I have a lot of work still to do at Malvern. So I know you'll be very kind and you'll excuse me. Bye, goodbye, goodbye.
By the late 1920s, George Bernard Shaw is looked upon as a living immortal, dwelling on his own Mount Olympus. And from such heights, he delights in entertaining and outraging the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I plant the tree, I think I shall talk a little. You could say step by step. Yes, now a gentleman tells me that I am to face this way. Because these gentlemen who are operating, they of course go to the wrong side. They always do. Shakespeare had a mulberry tree, and I'm not going to be outdone by Shakespeare.
Shaw is aware that to achieve fame years before, he had put on the cap and bells of a jester. Now he will never remove them. He is the voluntary prisoner of his own reputation.
Don't be deceived, ladies and gentlemen. When a man is playing the simple, unaffected human being, in public, he's always acting as hard as he possibly can. And small blame to him, I do that sort of thing myself. I could show you all sorts of tricks that I can play. For instance, if I want to appear to you as the profoundly reflective critic. Well, look at this. You get a view of my forehead. My beard is not so conspicuous. You would almost, if you had to vote for a man, and you wanted to vote for a profoundly reflective man, you would vote for me. But would you vote for that?
When one of Shaw's close friends, Lady Astor, comes to the United States, reporters ask her an inevitable question about the world-celebrated playwright. When will Shaw himself visit America?
He's frightened. He's frightened of coming to America. I'm longing to have him come because you'd like him. He'd be very insulting and very amusing.
Finally, however, the great man consents to set sail for the United States. Of Americans, he says, I have called them idiots, and they just adore me. His visit has been eagerly awaited by the American press, which Shaw does not intend to disappoint.
I can't say that I'm very glad to see you because I can't see you. But I feel instinctively that you're extremely glad to see me. They're always glad to see me in America. So now, take a good look at me because I am the actual, real, original Bernard Shaw. And, now, how do you like me? Very good.
In Hollywood, Shaw is lionized. Proudly, he struts with actress Marion Davies. Later, he will confess an irresistible impulse to kiss Mae West. And he will tell producer Samuel Goldwyn, "You, sir, are interested in art, but I am interested in money." Shaw becomes a globetrotter. From Mexico City to Moscow, he graciously permits mankind to behold the legend that is George Bernard Shaw. He continues to sound off on the affairs of the world. In the early 1930s, he praises dictators like Stalin, Mussolini, and Hitler, partly because he never tires of shocking the public, but also because the arrogant Shaw is strangely attracted to tyrants, to self-styled supermen.
Mr. Shaw, after having visited a good part of the world, what do you think should be done to prevent another world conflict?
You see, that's one of these questions that I'm not prepared to ask unless you give me the job. No man fords a stream until he comes to it. If you want me to set the world to rights, you must put me against that so that I've got to do it within 24 hours. Then I'll give my mind to it.
Most people, however, are willing to forgive him almost anything because he is, after all, George Bernard Shaw. He speaks at a dinner given in honor of Albert Einstein, and in Shaw's eyes, it is one giant praising another. Shaw's political views changed somewhat with the start of the Second World War. He deplores the bloodshed unleashed by dictators he had once naively admired. And he has a special grudge about what happened on his 88th birthday, when he was visiting friends near London.
And the first compliment I received was a bomb from Adolf Hitler, which broke my bedroom window. I hope by my next birthday, I shall receive something more cheerful than this exciting. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
For the rest of his life, however, Shaw will voice great admiration for Joseph Stalin and communism. And Shaw insists that he himself is a devout communist. But at the same time, he has become a millionaire by driving hard bargains for the rights to his plays. Says Shaw, "I will try to die rich," but the tax collector gets nearly everything. The years begin to take their toll on Shaw. But even as he approaches the age of 90, he is still a man to be reckoned with. He continues to write plays and political pamphlets, and he boasts that his vegetarianism may keep him alive forever. Shaw's wife has died, and he is now in the midst of a lively flirtation with a young actress. But as usual, it is only through the mail. In his 90s, Shaw characteristically disagrees with his now worshipful critics. "In my best days," he says, "I was merely one of the 100 best playwrights in the world, hardly a supreme distinction." And he rejects honors and titles. They get one, says he, into disreputable company. But finally, time catches up with the indestructible George Bernard Shaw. He says, "I am weary, utterly weary of everything. I want most intensely to die." To his nurses, he complains, "You are only trying to keep me alive as a curiosity." Shaw warns his doctor, "It will do you no good if I recover." A doctor's reputation, he says, is made by the number of eminent men who die under his care. Shaw will die in 1950 at the age of 94, one of the most incredible personalities of his time. He was his own work of art. He even provided his own curtain speech.
If you'd known all I have had to put up with in my life, you'd say heaven defend me for living that man's life. However, I don't complain. It doesn't matter if one dies poor, which I'm not going to do, by the way, as long as your life is happy. And the way to have a happy life is to be too busy doing what you like all the time, having no time left to you to consider whether you're happy or not. And, oh, look here, I'm getting talking. I must stop. Well, it's very pleasant to have seen you all here, and to think that you are my audience and all that, because I'm a born actor myself. I like an audience. I'm like a child in that respect. Well, goodbye, 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 all of you.
Ever since Shaw's death, critics and historians have been trying to measure his stature as a writer and as a man. But Shaw himself had the best, if not the last, word. He said, "For years, I have been dinning into the public head that I am an extraordinarily witty, brilliant, and clever man. That is now part of the public opinion," said Shaw, "and no power on earth will ever change it." Mike Wallace for Biography.